Welcome to In My Bag with Backpack Jeff, where we connect with ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And today I got a very special guest here with me, acting coach. He's appeared on several different TV shows from BET, Her, Blue Blood, Gotham. Man, what else? The list just goes on and on and on, man. I'm super excited for this interview. I actually got a chance to see this brother at the movie premiere for the BET Her. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark McKinnon. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Yo, let me tell you, from the first day that I met you, I was looking forward to interviewing you. I was like, I gotta meet him. I gotta go up there and see this dude, just because, man, it's something about when you meet someone like yourself, where it's just like, yo, I know this is a genuine good brother, and you just want to learn, right? I knew that. I was like, yo, what can I learn from him? You know, what are some of the things that he can teach me? What are some of the things that he can teach this audience? And then also, man, I love hearing success stories. So
I love it.
I want to dive right into your success story, man, right from the beginning. Acting. Tell us how'd you get into acting and why acting?
Wow, it started for me way back in high school. One of my friends, she was going to audition for the school plays. And at that time, I was an athlete. You know, I didn't do no plays, anything like that. You know, it was too cool to do a play.
Right.
You know, but I went into the waiting room to, like, support, you know, and the drama teacher came out, and she saw me out there. And back then, you know, it wasn't at my school, my high school, there wasn't too many males that did it, especially black men. So she came out, and my drama teacher, because I took, like, one elective with her,
right.
She's like, you need to audition for this play. I said, nah, I'm good. She's like, come on, we could really use you. I say, you know what? I'm here. Why not? I auditioned. First time ever auditioning. I ended up booking the lead role. And that's what got me started. And what made me really realize this was something that I needed to do was that following year, so many athletes and black men came out to be a part of the play as well. So when I saw that social change, I said, wow, I had an impact just by making this small step. Right. You know, and I said, I want to go further with this.
You were the first to do it. You were the first to do it, and then everybody else followed suit.
Exactly.
Do you remember what you were auditioning for?
Yeah, it was this play called Little Women. It actually was a movie that just came out like a year ago.
Okay.
Where, like the love interest of the main character, like the sisters and everything. So
okay.
Yeah, that was the role. It's so long ago. I don't remember the exact storyline, but that was like the first role ever. And that's what led me, like a year after that, I realized, you know what, I want to study this. So that's when I ended up at Howard.
Oh, you went to Howard, HU.
Yeah, HU. Yeah.
HU. All right. So, man, it's interesting that you said Howard. So now transitioning into your college life, right? So you went to Howard to study
theater arts, acting. Yep.
To study theater arts, acting. Okay. What was your experience like going to college? Because for me, I didn't really have much guidance going to college, and if I could go back and do it again, I probably would have went to a HBCU.
Wow.
So
where'd you go?
I went to Waynesburg University.
Okay, got you.
A predominantly white, like 97% white school, right?
Right.
The 2,000 kids, there was like 50 black kids.
Right.
I definitely would have went to a HBCU, and so I didn't have that guidance. And I'm like, man, if I would have known, you know what I mean, if I would have had a little bit more direction,
right, I
would have done it a little bit different. Tell me about your experience going to college and what made you say Howard.
Well, for me, like, the crazy part, I didn't realize the power of HBCU until after the experience was over. And a lot of my friends, everybody, right, when they started telling me their experience going to a PWI, you don't realize how powerful it is to be surrounded by black educated people.
Yes.
In the same mindset, we're all trying to grow, the struggle, everything. Until I went to go visit Frostburg. I had a friend that did a show in Frostburg.
That's about where my school is. Another
right
2 hours.
There. That's a nice little hike. It's a nice little drive in the mountains. And when we did the show, like the audience was full of black people. I'm like, okay, they got a nice student body. Like, that's a nice look. They was like, this is it at this university. I was like, what? These 300 people? They was like, yeah, like this is the black community here.
The football players, the basketball players, and the track
basically
athletes.
And it was so close though. That was the amazing part. They were all so close. But then they started, you know, afterwards we all went out and they started sharing like how much they got to fight for things for blacks at their university and how much they didn't get the chance to really do what they really want to do because you had to fight for what you want to do. So it just was crazy to see that. But for me, I chose Howard strictly because of the acting program.
Okay.
When I was coming out of high school, I got recruited by a lot of schools for football. And most of those schools either had like a Shakespearean theater arts program,
Right.
or they didn't really have the things that I wanted to have, if I'm going to study acting.
Right.
And so Howard was the only school that didn't offer me a football scholarship. However, my mom worked there. So because she worked there, I was like, you know what? My tuition would be paid for. I'll just walk onto the football team.
Man.
And so when I first got to Howard, I walked onto the football team, and then I auditioned for the theater arts program. And as soon as I walked in, they said, Mark, you can't audition if you're going to be on the football team. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's like the schedules won't mix. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's like, trust me, we don't have athletes a part of our program. So if you want to audition today, you're going to have to not do football.
Right.
And I lied to them in their face like, all right, I'll stop doing football. And back in my mind, I'm like, I just want to audition. I came this far. Right. Let me go. I auditioned. They accepted me to the program. I still went to practice, moving forward.
Right.
And then one day, maybe like within the first month of school starting, what happens is you have a 5 a.m. practice, right, for football.
Mm-hmm.
That practice go bad, what the coach say? I'm going to see y'all again tonight, 6 o'clock.
Right.
I already had like a rehearsal schedule, and this is when I first started seeing the clash. And then it happened again like a week after that, and then I realized, all right, I'm going to have to make a life decision here.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized how hard it was to get into the theater arts program, and I knew this is what I really wanted to do. I love football too.
Right.
So it was a hard fork in the road, but I said, you know what? I prayed about it, and I said, I feel peace about going the acting route.
Right.
And that's what I did. So I miss football. I miss playing it. That's why one of my dream roles would be to be like an athlete.
Yeah.
And something to have the best of both worlds. But yeah, that was kind of how I got started at Howard and that transition.
Man, that's crazy. So I'm gonna back up a little bit and talk about my college experience. Okay. So it's funny about thing that you said about Frostburg State, right? Here's what's so crazy. Number one, we had a black student union. It's called the BSU at my school, right? I didn't join it, and I feel bad about that now.
Wow.
Right? I feel bad. I'm like, yo, I should have done more. Like if I knew now if I knew then what I know now, I would have definitely joined it.
Why didn't you though?
Because it seemed like they were kind of attacking me a little bit they were kind of like forcing me to join
like
it because I was black. Like, you got to be here because you're black. And I'm like, I don't want to be a part of something just because I'm black. Like, you know what I mean? So like that was crazy. And then here's what's more crazy. Here's when I really knew, like when things started to click for me. I went back to the school and I went to a BSU meeting. The president was white. The vice president was white. And the treasurer was white. I'm like, how did the black kids on this campus allow white people to be the president, the vice president, and the treasurer of the black student union? Picture going to a predominantly white school and white people saying, hey, you want to be a part of the BSU? Excuse me?
But it's crazy. Like, I just found that out about the United Negro College Fund, that the owners of that are all Caucasian men.
Really?
All white men. The Negro College Fund.
Hey,
the president, the owner, everything is white.
Man.
It's crazy.
Yo, that's crazy. And so now I go back to my alma mater and I speak to the football players and stuff like that, and I encourage them, and I'm like, listen, y'all need to be a part of this for no other reason than you need to build camaraderie and you need to build relationships outside of your athletic career. Because let's face it, this is a Division III school. Right. Chances are none of you are going professional anywhere. And so, I encourage them all the time to do that. And then fast forward to, you was talking about your acting role. You remember the movie Concussion, Will Smith, that he did? I tried out for a position, for a role in that movie. They needed athletes, and it was shot in Pittsburgh, so I was living in that area at the time, and I didn't end up getting a part. I was like, man, that could have been, that could have been my start.
You had the opportunity.
Yeah.
Wait, so you played sport? What sport did you play?
I play football and basketball. Okay. Football is my love, though. I play basketball because I'm good at it, and I got brothers who play it.
Right.
But football is my love, man. There's nothing like being in just like on that island, man, and just in the trenches, you know what I mean? It's something so special about that. So
I miss it too.
I definitely connect with you on that. So in college, you started out in theater. You made this life decision, and obviously it's been a great life decision for you. What was it like going through school? Like, what were some of the things, any challenges that you had to face going through school in theater, or was it just like, yo, this isn't really a challenge because this is what I love?
Right. Well, I would say one of the struggles was, for one, making sure I was confident in my sexuality and who I am.
Okay.
Because in the theater arts community, a lot of times, not everybody's straight.
Right.
You know, and the percentage of straight men in my department was very small.
Right.
So that was one of the struggles, was just making sure I stayed focused, making sure that I was also comfortable without judging anybody, making sure I showed love to everybody, still hung out with everybody, to show that I'm here for a mission, to learn, but also to build family. So that was one of the things that was a hurdle for me. Number two, honestly, was just that financial struggle. Like, who didn't struggle financially in college? Like, my tuition was paid for, but I still struggled, you know, because, you know, you're trying to figure out how you're going to eat. You know, how you going to make that next thing. You know, but after a while, you learn how to survive. Thank God, like a McDonald's.
Did you stay on campus?
Yeah, I stayed on campus.
What made you want to stay on campus as opposed to commuting?
Well, for one, I wanted to see what it was like to fully be a college student. I feel like if you still are home, I feel like you don't get a chance to fully see what it's like to live that dorm life, to be able to go to the parties whenever you want. And I had a strict mom.
Yeah.
Like, my mom was super, super, super strict. And so she wasn't going to let me come home at 11. I don't care if you're in college or not. Like, your curfew is 11 o'clock. Even when I came home in the summer, she was like, no, you're going to be home until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm glad I made that decision. Like, I'm really glad I did, because it did feel like I was away from home, even though home was only a half an hour away.
Right.
I felt like I was able to still fully grow as a man during those 4 years.
Yeah, I think that's an important experience for all of us to have, man, is literally being away, and it kind of puts responsibility all on yourself. You know what I mean? Because I was surprised at how many people, when I got to college, didn't know how to do laundry. They didn't know how to, they weren't really clean. Like, I've seen some relationships and friendships break up because, oh, we're best friends, and then we're going to live together, and then they live together, and it's like, especially with women.
Right. It's always, it don't last long at all. The first 2 weeks is already.
Absolutely, man. Okay, yo, that's amazing. So now you're in, you got your college life and stuff like that. What was one of your favorite classes, or what was one of your favorite things to study? Because I know with acting, you're not just looking at acting today, you're also looking at like the history of acting. Who are some of the people that inspired you? And then what were some of the things that you studied in school that you were like, yo, I didn't even know this about acting until I started to learn it?
I would say one of the surprise courses that I ended up liking but hating at the same time was my dance class. They made the actors take a movement and dance class because they wanted you to understand your instrument, your tool, and how to use it towards your art. But I ended up falling in love with it because this was a time, almost in a sense like yoga, where you really tune in with yourself. So at first, you know, you kind of like, oh, this ain't what I do, and I was fighting against it. But after a while, in the middle of the semester, I started to really be accepting to what it offered. And it really helped me find a lot of things about myself that I did not know off of movement. Now, I'm not a dancer. I can't dance for anything. But just the freedom that you had and the permission they gave you to be yourself was just a phenomenal, phenomenal thing to learn about myself. And to this day, I use a lot of movement exercises and tools. Even though you don't physically see me do it, the mindset that you have to go into having that freedom. Right. So that's one of the things that I love. Another class that also was one of my favorites was my senior year, my film and TV class. This was my first time ever really learning about film and TV as far as like what it was like. Because when you come from a heavy theater background, you think everything is going to be that way. Like, this is how you prepare a role. This is how you perform. But it's not. When you get in front of that camera, it's a whole nother world.
Listen, let me tell you, I do so well at performing, if I'm on stage, I can perform very easy, but it's so hard when like I'm trying to record a video and I'm just doing it in front of that. I don't know why that changes.
I'm gonna tell you why it is.
Please tell me.
You can use the energy to express yourself and kind of go off the flow.
Right.
Whereas when you're on camera, a lot of times you feel contained. There's an art to it, but you feel so contained that it feels like I can only do but so much. And now you're more in your head because you can't just freely express yourself.
Right.
You know, and I think that's why a lot of times people struggle with that transition from the stage theatrical to being on camera, because you do have to hone in and bring everything in to make it match with the camera.
Okay. All right. So are there any exercises that you do yourself to like get yourself ready? What's some of the things that you do to get yourself ready for that?
More so for being on camera?
Yeah, for being on camera.
Honestly, doing nothing.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is when you learn the art of the mind, understanding that your mind shows you what you're thinking, what you're feeling, it shows through the eyes. You learn to trust that and trust the text. more than expressing that and acting it out.
Okay.
Right? If you watch TV, everything is what? Top secret conversation. You know, everything is private.
Right.
Everybody has something private to say. They're not out there talking like this about their business.
Yeah.
Everything is like super intimate. You know, so you learn the art of like, I'm not going to do much at all. I'm talking to you right now. I'm chilling.
Yeah.
I don't have to express myself, but you still feel my energy. You hear what I'm saying. You're listening. And being able to be small helps you to focus in on what you're hearing and receiving anyway. So that's something that I practice every single time before an audition. I remember I had an audition I did record last weekend, and I watched it. I said, I'm going to do even less. So I did it again. I watched it again.
And it just comes off so natural.
And it just comes off so natural. And that's why you'll watch something where you'll see an actor doing nothing, but yet you're in tune to what they're doing.
Right.
And this is how powerful the eyes is. If you ever see like a bad short film or a bad student film, right, you'll notice if the camera is like where you are, right?
Yeah.
This actor can be acting their butt off, but they're facing this way, and the camera is seeing what? The side of their face.
Right.
So you're not able to take in what they're feeling, what they're thinking. Even though they're giving their all you see is this, right? But when they turn in, you kind of see them looking right off camera. Now you can feel and read what they're saying. An actor could be doing nothing, just sitting there, but because what they're thinking through their eyes, you're like, I think I know what he's going through or she's going through. So notice that when you're watching TV, notice that their eyes is doing nothing.
That's literally where I was going next, because since you're an actor, do you look at TV different?
Absolutely. My wife gets on me about it all the time. It happened yesterday, you know, and it's like,
because I feel like sometimes it's hard to turn it off because you're like, they should have did this a little bit. They got to face that. They got to turn that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tell me what that's like.
She got used to it by now. I mean, at this point, we've been together almost 8 years now. But yeah, it's one of those deals where I don't realize I'm doing it until somebody say something. And I'm not bad. There's some people who's really bad.
Right.
Like they'll talk about the scarf being over here or whatever. Like I'm not that bad. Mine is more like technique.
Okay.
Like an actor could be having a conversation and then they break out in a monologue, but I don't realize they're in a monologue till they finish. I'm like, yo, did you see that monologue? Like, yo, did you see how he just delivered that monologue? Or I'm looking at the expressions of how they're doing it. I was going fool with my friend Deborah Ayurende. She went to Howard, but she's starring in that show Them on Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
By Lena Waithe and Little Marvin. And just this watch of somebody who somebody who you shared a lot of friendship with and everything, to see them on a high level but acting her butt off. I was having commentary throughout the whole thing. Like, do you see what she's doing? Like, but
like you big up in your friend the whole time.
But a lot of times I'll see good acting and it makes me want to go back and study a script for no reason and just kind of practice something.
Wow,
man.
And
that's what inspires me is when I go see a show or see a movie and it makes me want to go back and be better in my craft.
Oh man, yo, that's so good. Like I like that. I figured that would happen, but I was like, yo, I've never talked to an actor on your level, and so I'm like, okay, let me ask that question now. So and I want to ask you about a particular scene, in the Fresh Prince, and I think you know what scene I'm getting to, right?
I already know
the scene that Will Smith produced not produced, but gave to the world about his dad. I can go back and I can watch that over and over again and it'll still give me chills. Tell me, like, have you ever gotten into a moment, or like when you seen that, what did you feel when you saw that scene?
To me, this what makes acting great is when you're dealing with your problem, but I can connect to it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is why it was one of the most memorable scenes of all time, is because every man who ever had their father leave their life or not in their life, they were able to connect to that. So he was referencing his father, but yet as we're watching, we're connecting to, whoever, like my father wasn't in my life. So watching that scene, I felt like, Will, you spoke for me. You spoke for what I would want to say if I saw him, face to face, and I think that's what made it so powerful. But Will made it his own. Yeah. And it's funny, whenever you see another actor try to do it, they try to do it exactly like him. It's never as good. You got to do it your own way.
Yeah, that's that part.
Got to do it your own way. But yeah, that scene definitely for me was... like I said, as soon as you said Fresh Prince and as soon as you said the most memorable, there's only two scenes, either that one or when he got shot. And
those definitely are just some memorable scenes, man. Have you gotten to a point? So actually, no. You know what? Let me put that scene of Will Smith right next to the scene at the very end of the BET Her when you were on camera and you were doing that last log off on her on her vlog. Man, I was sitting in that car and I was listening to, and I was like, yo, I can feel the emotion in that scene. And it was such a beautiful story. And it was what, maybe like 20 minutes, 30 minutes or something like that. But the story was told so beautifully that I was like, yo, I felt every part of this, man. How did you connect in that moment? Like, do you have to go to a certain place mentally in order to put on that type of performance?
Absolutely. This is where you use the art of substitution. With substitution, you're dealing with something that would make you emotionally get to a place. Like, I'll use an extreme example. Let's say, like, you have to play a character who has to get raped.
Okay.
Right? You may say, okay, I've never been raped in my life before, so how can I relive that emotion? So what you say is, okay, have you ever heard of somebody who's been raped? You heard an interview, heard them talk about it. They'll talk about the emotion that they went through. So now you're tying into their emotion. So that's what I had to do. No, I never lost my girlfriend or lost my wife, right? What happens is you go into the thing, what made me feel that depression? What made me feel lost before? And I tie that to my father. When I lost my father, even though he wasn't in my life, I still felt that hurt.
Okay.
So me crying, even though y'all see me crying over Raven, that was the name of the character I was crying over, I'm connected to me losing my dad and not having my dad there. You know, and that's what it comes down to. But the funny thing is, it is something that I had to relearn because this was my first emotional role on camera. I've done it in theater plenty of times, but on camera, the first time having to go there, is you film multiple takes. So I gave it my all, my first take. And the first take is normally like the wide shot.
Right.
So you're not up in the grill to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And I finished it, and everybody in the room was super quiet because you could feel the energy in the room. Everybody was like honed in on it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, all right, I did it. Whew. And they was like, all right, let's do it again. Let's get closer. I'm like, wait, what?
I got to go back into that
All
state?
right, so let's do it again. The second time, I did it again. And it was like, okay, cool. All right. And it was like, all right, now we're going to do even closer. I'm like, what? I do it again?
Wow, man.
With the fact that I surprised myself, I was able to every single time. I think maybe like the last take I couldn't really get the tears to come back.
Yeah.
But the first 4 times I was able to like bring that emotion, but it was because I was connected to that thought.
So when you're on set and stuff like that, I know. So I had an opportunity to film a commercial at my university.
Nice.
It took us 9 hours to film a 45-second commercial.
Sounds about right. Sounds about right. Yeah.
It took us 9 hours and we did it in three different locations.
Okay.
It was a locker room, it was the gym, and then it was somewhere else I couldn't remember.
Right.
But it took us a long time to do it, and they really made me feel like a star. Like going through my college experience, it was crazy. And for those 9 hours, man, I really felt like a star. I was like, they was like, anything that you want, we'll get it for you. And I was like, all right, I want some sour gummy worms. And then like 30 minutes later, I had sour gummy worms, and I was like, yo, this is nice. And it turned out really well. What is it like being on set, you know what I mean, and being in that atmosphere and around people who are just like so talented?
It's great. I mean, it's great to be around people who are excellent or at least passionate by every single role, from the grip to the actor to the director. Like, you're surrounded by people who love what they do. And being on that set for like the waiting room, Black excellence. I got to work with Cheryl Lee Ralph, and got to work with Jasmine Love. Where you're surrounded by people who are like great at what they do, and just inspired me to be at my best. When you're around other great people, you can't be like chilling. You gotta be like, all right, let me make sure I'm good. But it wasn't forced. I didn't feel like I was shortcoming. I felt like I was in the place where I needed to be. I felt like I deserved to be there. And when you get to that place where you feel like you deserve to be there, that's when you're able to say, you know what, I'm great just like they are.
Wow, man, that's amazing, man. Okay. All right, so we talked a little bit about your acting career. I want to kind of get to now. You're also an acting coach,
yes,
right? Tell us number one, what is acting an acting coach? I mean, we can guess, but there's always way more than what we think on a surface level. You know what I mean? And as an acting coach, tell us a little bit about being an acting coach.
Right, being an acting coach. A lot of times people think right away, oh, that's director. And I always tell people, my job is not to direct you. My job as an acting coach is to help you take what you know and help you get comfortable letting that out.
Right.
You know, and so I'm really good with consulting actors as well in the business side of acting. But when it comes to technique, make sure I'm teaching them how to be an actor. You know, and that's what it is. Now, sometimes you will get into directing mode a little bit where you start to direct and you start to like give an idea of the direction you should go. But most of it is about me making you feel comfortable in what you're going to bring to a character.
Okay.
So I've been acting coach since 2012 is when I first started.
Okay. What you're number one. How do people, like, if someone wants wants you to be their acting coach, how do they do that? And then you've also had a lot of success in getting other people and helping other people land roles. Tell me what that's like, what that process is like.
Right. The first step is our site, McKinnonActorStudio.com. Literally on that site, you're able to choose whether you want one-on-one coaching, whether you want group acting classes, whether you need me as an on-set coach. I do on-set coaching as well.
Okay.
You know, and from there you go through the process of learning for one, the business side of things, but then two, where you fit in the industry.
Okay.
Because once you know where you fit in the industry, then it's now I won't say easy, but you're on a path of where you need to go.
Right.
You know, and that's what I feel like, you know, I love doing is helping people book that first job.
Yeah.
Somebody getting their first agent. You know, I get a high off of that every single time because I remember what it felt like when I had my first agent.
Right.
Or I booked my first job, you know. So that's what we love, and we have like a family-like atmosphere there.
That's amazing, man. So how does someone, so getting the agent allows the agent now pushes this person out to different like movie scripts, and stuff like that. Tell me, what's that process like in terms of like someone getting a role?
Right, getting a role. So first, it starts off with you. It starts off with you knowing who you are, where you fit. Because once you know your direction, then you're able to find an agent who can help market and push you out that way. Because an agent job is to help you find auditions, help you get jobs.
Okay.
Right. So once you get that, that's when you get into that room, and that's when you showcase and highlight what you can do as an actor.
Right.
You know. So getting an agent a lot of times is hard because a lot of times agents are not just going off of talent; they're going off of where would you fit on my roster. If we already have somebody who kind of looks like you, at least is going the same direction as you, we're not going to add you to the roster as well.
Right.
And so that's what I love spending time doing, is helping actors define where they fit on somebody's roster.
Okay. How did you define yourself? Like what helped you define who you are? You know, like you said, this was in the BET Her. That was your first time playing an emotional role. You know, I saw you play a cop. You know, you're on a couple of different things playing a cop. How did and obviously, you know, there's other roles that you want to get into. And what was the role you said? The wife. What was? Oh man, the role. It'll come to me.
Okay.
It'll come to me. Don't worry. It'll come to me. So how did you define yourself and, you know, who you are as an actor?
For me, mine's kind of accidentally happened. Like when I came in, I didn't have nobody teach me our brand and type. It was kind of like you just, whatever you saw in the casting calls, you kind of just submitted for it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I saw myself kept booking, and it was kind of just happening all the time, was like military and cop roles.
Okay.
So I started seeing the consistencies of that. So by the time I was ready for New York, that's when I got my manager, and they realized, yo, you fit military, cop, law enforcement.
Right.
And that's how I was able to get Blue Bloods and Gotham and FBI, because it was like I already positioned myself accidentally for those type. You know, so that's advice I would give to anybody who wants to get into acting. Don't feel like you got to only focus on your specific brand and type. You kind of want to, yes, have that direction, but also be open to where the industry is going to take you. You may end up being something you didn't realize you were. You know, whether it's like the charmer or whether it's the bad guy, whether it's the lawyer, whatever. You know, you may end up getting those all the time. And when you see the consistency of the same types of roles, that's when you go into like, maybe I need to start branding myself as that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So, man, this has just been an amazing episode. Yo, I'm learning so much, man. I'm just like, yo, I can't wait to go back and listen to this because I know there's going to be some things that that I really need to kind of like dive into a little bit more. Okay, so acting. So you're married, right? How long have you been married?
About to be 4 years next month.
About to be 4 years next month. Okay, don't forget the anniversary date, fellas. Do not forget the anniversary date.
I learned a long time ago. You can't do that. Cannot do that.
Yeah. So how do you balance, you know, work life and personal life? Because as an actor, you know, you can get a phone call right now and say, hey, such and such, something just happened, and you know, we need you on set. You know what I mean? How do you find time to balance your work and your personal life?
Well, for one, it's two things: communication and time management. You know, shout out to my wife, Brittany Carter McKinnon. When we first started dating, yes, I was already an actor, so she knew that I was an actor. But it was still hard for her whenever I did have to like prioritize acting. You know, when you get married, it switches. You know, your family comes first.
Right.
But one of the biggest things we had to learn how to do was to communicate. Like I never took on a role without having a conversation with her first.
Okay.
You know, so when you learn the art of doing that, she always feels comfortable. Now when I get roles, she's so like, I trust you. I get it. It wasn't like that at first. I remember my first kiss of role when I was dating her. She was not happy at all. It took a minute. But time management, you know, when you're first out there trying to build your career, a lot of times you're just so free and so open. Like you quit your job just to be available. You know, I was that starving artist before, but then I learned quickly, like, no, as a man, I have to be responsible. As a man, I got to be able to feed myself. I got to be able to provide. You know, so that's when I got myself together around 2014, 2015.
Okay.
And once I started getting my finances together, it led to me starting having time management. Because now I was able to say no to things because I had to make money somewhere. You know, so it's like when you learn that art of balancing, okay, I got to take care of myself. I don't need to be doing any and everything just to say I'm acting, just to say I'm busy.
Right.
You'll learn how to take things that's going to elevate your career. And so many actors fall into that trap where as long as I'm doing something, then I'm acting. As long as I'm auditioning, then I'm acting. It's like, no.
Right.
You got to work your dream and your job until your dream becomes your job. You got to do both.
Can you say that again, please?
Yes, you got to work your dream and your job until your dream becomes your job. You know, and this is why, you know, I always try to encourage actors, you book one role and then you're ready to quit your job because this is what you want to do. All you're going to be is an auditioning actor. Here's a prime example I always say. And this happened to me. And this is why I had quit my job. And after a while, I was like, I need to go get a job. So one of my first jobs that I had booked was a commercial. And it paid me like $3,000, right? I'm like, oh, $3,000? I don't need no job. I'm good, right? So then I booked another one again. It was around the same amount. Let's say $3,000 again, right?
Right.
And then another, like 2 months later, again. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. But think about it. Those were the only 3 jobs I booked that year. So you do 3,000 times 3. That's $9,000. So I left a job making X amount of dollars for
right.
I remember I got my tax return one time. It was only like $11,000 one time.
Yo.
Like that's how much income I made for the whole year was like $11,000. And I'll never forget. I was like, it feels good when you're on that job that day. You're like, oh, I made this all in one day. But if you're not doing that at least monthly,
right?
It's
at
not the same.
At the very least monthly, and $3,000 monthly still isn't a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money at all. You know, so when you fresh out of college, you're like, all right, cool,
yeah, right,
happy.
Yeah.
But as you get older, you're like, yeah, I need a little bit more than that.
$3,000 goes like, man, listen.
If I had $2,000 a month now, I'll still be starving. Like, I feel like it just, you know. But it really was one of those deals where I had to. I'm glad I went through it.
Right.
It was like a good 2 to 3 years because I had left a really good full-time job that I had. And when I had got my first agent in New York, I was like, I just want to be available.
Right.
I just want to be available to audition. So I was like, I quit my job, moved to New York, was up there, and struggled, like bad.
Yeah.
It was a depressing time. It was a moment of like I had to relearn myself, and then it just kept digging at me. I kept losing myself to the point where I said, you know what? It was my father's funeral. That's what woke me up.
Wow.
When I went to my father's funeral, mind you, I didn't see him for 20 years. And I got a random call. I didn't even know where he was, but I got a random call from a family member I didn't even know I had. Like, hey, your father died. His funeral is next week. You should be there. What? Who are you? Where you come from?
Right.
And I couldn't afford to go down there. I couldn't afford to go fly down and see my dad one last time. My church, my mentor, Bishop Joe Peebles, he was nice enough to say, you know what, I want to help you get down there. And I had another mentor down there, so I had somewhere to stay. I just had to get down there. It was on that plane ride there that I realized like something had to change. But once I saw my father, I wasn't angry, I wasn't mad, I wasn't sad. I felt like I got everything I needed just by being in front of him. It was crazy. It was like I didn't have no questions when I saw his body. I had no questions. I got all the answers I needed just from being in his presence. You know, because our fathers men give their sons their identity.
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, that is the role of a father, is to give their child their identity.
Yeah.
And I felt like just being in my father's present gave me my identity. Hence why the studio is called McKinnon Acting Studio. You know, I realized I had to literally make a name for our name because I didn't have no siblings at the time that I didn't know about anything like that. I didn't know, you know, my father was the only child. My grandmother had already died, so I didn't know anything about the McKinnons. So it was at that funeral on the way back when I realized I got to change. And that's when I finally started to prioritize my financial stability. And from there, never look back. And I'm glad I had to take, 6 months off. It started off at 6 months. I said, I'm going to take 6 months off from acting.
Right.
I'm going to focus on my finances. And 6 months turned to a year and a half. But it was the best year and a half ever because it financially set me up for where I am today, where I'm proud of where I am financially. I'm proud of my savings, proud of the 7 streams of income that I have. You know, so it's just like you get to a place where I'm glad I went through that. So every time I have a client and they're like, I'm thinking about quitting my job and, I just want to focus on acting, I'm like, do not quit your job. Do not quit your job. Like, keep working. I know it's hard. You may have to switch shifts. You may have to find another job. But you cannot just be an auditioning actor.
You can't forget about your responsibilities as a person.
Got to.
As a human, as an adult.
Got
First,
to.
man, a lot of people miss that. I hope y'all caught the last 5 minutes of what my man was just talking about. Because that... Oh, man. And I went crazy when you said it because there's a particular situation that I'm dealing with where someone has forgotten their responsibilities as an adult, and it's like, yo, I'm building my own brand, but I also sit over there and I work 2 full-time jobs, 40 hours a week. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I can never forget. And the thing about it is that I allow my job to fuel my passion. So a lot of people, they hate their jobs and stuff like that. But I'm like, yo, I can't hate my job because this fuels my passion. And so now I'm getting to the point where eventually my passion is going to become my job.
Absolutely.
Like you said, I'm like, yo.
And I love that because the thing is, once I change my perspective, everybody say if you have a plan B, then you're failing. You're counting yourself out.
Yeah.
I said, no, change your perspective. Your plan B funds your plan A.
Come on now.
You know what I'm saying? And so
this funds plan A, right? This is it, right?
That's it. Right? Once I figured that, going to the job now, I was like, this is how I'm going to buy my next headshots. Okay, going to the job, this is how I'm going to be able to take classes.
Yes.
And this is why one of the reasons why I made McKinnon Acting Studio, we have the lowest prices that you would ever hear of for an acting studio. One of the things God told me to do was like, I want you to make it affordable for everybody. When he said affordable, not like affordable in the sense of like it's still expensive but affordable. It's like every time somebody take a class, they always go, "This is it. This is all it costs."
Right.
Because the reason was when I was in New York and I was spending about $350 a month for a class, I was only able to do it like twice.
Wow.
That was it. But then when I was like, if I do my prices at a price where people can keep renewing, continue to renew, then you get to a place where business-wise it works, of course, because now you get longevity. But then on the second end of it, you're kind of like, wow, people can not have to have an acting class be a burden financially.
Yo. Oh, man, that's... Gee, I'm telling you, I hope y'all I hope y'all were literally paying attention. That right there is definitely key to success, key to building a brand, key to building anything sustainable in this world, man. It's everything that you just talked about. So I want to talk about this because I think this is important too. I think this is something that's important to talk about as well. Your wife is also an amazing woman.
Yes.
She's a very powerful woman.
She is.
Right. She ain't no slouch. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's in her own regard and who she is. She's successful. How a lot of men will get intimidated by a strong woman. How did you not get intimidated by someone who can actually meet you where you are?
Here's the thing. When I met Brittany, we both were struggling trying to figure out life.
Right.
So everyone sees like the powerful, just money. Like she's really good with finances and everything. Like we see that now. But when we first came together, like we both were trying to figure each other out. But the biggest thing that helped me realize what I was doing was not comparing. Because a lot of times, let's say, I not always say it publicly, like my wife makes more than me, right? The thing was, that used to eat me alive at first because I was comparing to saying I want to make that much what she's making.
Right.
But once I started looking at what I was doing for myself financially, I said, you know what, I'm doing fine too.
Yeah.
And when you're one, we're doing good together.
Yeah.
And that's what helped me feel confident in who I am, be more proud of where I am financially, because I had to stop comparing.
Right.
And that's where a lot of, I feel like, relationships go left, is because they start to compare.
Yep.
No longer are the days where the men go work and the woman stays at home. Our black women are out here making power moves, making money.
Man, let me tell you.
And so who am I to like stop you from doing great things? Look how many people she helped and inspired because of that. If we went the old school traditional way of the man go pay for everything, the man go do everything,
right?
Go work and you stay home, raise the kids. how many women would not be able to do what they love and be passionate about?
Yeah.
So every time she does it, I'm proud of her. I'm cheering her on. I'm
Absolutely.
like, keep going,
I'm your biggest fan. That's what, listen, man.
And it makes me work harder. Cause I'm like, I ain't gonna let you outwork me too much.
Absolutely. Hey, look, absolutely, man. And that's healthy competition. Where it's like, yo, I want to make sure that I'm upping my game because I see you upping your game. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like that. Like I can't watch you work as hard as you work, and then number one complain about where I'm at, and then number two not at least try to work as hard or harder than you're working. You know what I mean? So and that's where relationships, man, I think that's a beautiful place for relationships to get to. But so relationships, man, I think it's such a beautiful thing when relationships you can meet each other on that level, man. And it's, oh my goodness. See, number one, taking your pride out of it. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I think a lot of men find challenging when they meet a strong woman is taking their pride out of it. Like I would have no problem saying that my wife makes more than me. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Because like you said, and I wrote this line in one of my poems. I'm trying to remember. But it's essentially, I'm okay with piloting, but I'm also okay with co-piloting. You know what I mean? Like I'm learning how to pilot. Like I know how to pilot. You know what I mean? This is her season. So I'm going to allow her to lead in this season. And I'm okay. And my position as a co-pilot is just as important as her position as the pilot right now. You know what I mean? But like you said, you always working, you always grinding. You could be one position, you could be one role away from now. Okay, now I'm about to pilot us, and now she's going to co-pilot. And that's where the relationship and the love is going to be, man. And when I seen y'all, like I followed y'all, so I found out about the event from my girlfriend. And she follows your wife, and I was like, okay, let me see. And I watched what I loved was I watched the story, the Instagram stories of the build up of you all coming to the event and stuff like that, and the way that she supported you in that moment, I'm like, yo,
she definitely has my back, man. It's amazing. And one of the things that like people always ask us, like why y'all so happy? For one, we both doing what we love. That's the first thing. Two, we allow each other to co-pilot, as you said. It's not like our marriage counselors was able to help us realize that we don't have a traditional marriage. And a lot of times when people get counseling, they're getting counseled on a traditional marriage basis. When you realize you have a non-traditional marriage, like we don't have 9 to 5 where you go to work, come home, have dinner at a certain time, go to church, come to work. It's not that. Like every single day we have to check in with each other. What's your schedule? Where you at today? What city you in today? Like every day is something different. Our schedules is crazy. You know, even my brother, you know, he sees it now, you know, so it's just like, it's one of those deals where it's fun, but it's also like, it goes back to what we said in the beginning, time management. You know, and just being in a place where we still make sure at least once a week. No, actually twice a week now. We changed that. At least twice a week now, no matter what, we make time for each other. Because it was some times where it'd be 2 weeks we probably saw each other twice. If that, where, you know, and that's just in passing, saying good night, baby, go to sleep. You know, but the thing was, we had to learn the art of our foundation have to be there because we can get lost. You know, we both are go getters in the industries. And you can easily get lost in the busyness and helping everybody else that your own home can be crashing. You know, so once I realized I don't want my home to crash, that's when I realized, okay, it's important. Let me just take her out randomly. Hey, babe, what you doing today? No, come on, let's go to lunch. If I have the opportunity to do it, I'm going to try to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just got to the point where I'm getting busy. And I remember, in what month we in right now? April, March. I was gone every weekend in March, right? And I told my girlfriend that, and she started to cry a little bit. And I was like, this is, you know, I'm getting more busy. Things are starting to open back up. And so now, like we literally have conversations like just yesterday and all throughout this week. She's like, I can't keep up. You just got so many things going. I just can't keep up. I said, listen,
that's growth.
You have access to my calendar now. So that way this stops you from asking me where I'm at, where I'm going. You know what I mean? What am I doing? What am I meeting? Now you see, because because that's one of the things that I don't like to be like, babe, I just told you. So like, listen, look, there's a calendar right there. And being open, like you said, communication, you know what I mean? That's so key, man. Oh my goodness, man. I respect y'all relationship. I love y'all. I love y'all relationship. I love seeing the way that you two love and the way that you two support each other. And y'all literally genuinely look like y'all are having fun and y'all are enjoying life, man.
We really are.
Y'all are literally enjoying life. So, oh man. All right. So, where does Mark McKinnon want to see this acting thing go? Like when it's all said and done, well, not when it's all said and done, moving forward, where do you want this to go?
Right. For me, I just want to be a working actor. And what I mean by that, I'm not somebody who's about the fame. I don't even have to have the big $20 million blockbuster movie, right? There's some actors who you see on stuff all the time. They're doing different things all the time.
Right.
That's what I want. I want to be able to just make a living just performing different movies and TV shows. We all aspire to have series regulars and stuff. That's great too.
Right.
But I'm happy with just as long as I have the next job lined up, I'm happy.
Okay.
You know, of course, that dream role will be a sports movie or TV show. I'd be great with that too.
Yeah.
But for Mark McKinnon and his acting career is that I want to get to a place where, as I'm finishing one job, I'm already preparing for the next.
Right.
That's the goal.
Okay. I like that, man. Definitely forward thinking. In regards to in regards to coaching, where do you want to see coach? Like, so okay, so let me ask you this: what was your most exciting coaching experience? Like, because it's really nice to be happy for, like, when you help someone accomplish something that they want, you're like, yo, you kind of like, yes, man, like I knew it. So like, tell me about an experience that you had that was like that.
For me, surprisingly, it wasn't me as an acting coach. It was more of what the studio was able to do.
Okay.
So we have these flagship workshops where I bring different agents and managers down from New York as well as casting directors.
Okay.
And I had brought this one casting director down one time, and she had such a good time. But the biggest thing was she loved how prepared and talented everyone was. She loved the brand and type. She loved it so well that she called me back and was like, Mark, I want to bring some of my friends down.
Wow.
I want other people to see what's down here.
Wow.
And for me, that was like that big moment. Like, this was the goal. This was I didn't even know it was a goal, but it was like it happened. I was like, oh wow, I can. So now we have over 20 different reps and casting directors who come to our studio on a consistent basis because they see how well prepared and how oiled, especially virtually now.
Yeah.
Like, I have casting directors who come and do our workshops virtually, and they say the way y'all are structured, the way y'all run y'all's is better than how some of these New York and LA ones run it.
Wow.
And I saw that, I was like, wow. And for me, that was the high. For me, that was the best moment, was that not only my business, but my baby, the studio's my baby, to see like my heart for helping actors actually work. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's just amazing,
Okay. All right, man. Man, this was I very rarely get speechless, man. The only time I get speechless is just when I'm enamored and I'm just experiencing so much joy. And this talk has been one that I know that I'm going to go back and listen to over and over and over again, man. Sure. I'm truly inspired by you, watching your story from a distance, and then now being able to have you come sit on the podcast, man. This was absolutely amazing. I can't wait to do this again in like 5 years, man, and talk about your journey.
You got to make a few phone calls to get it now.
Hey, listen, for real. Listen, I joke with my mom all the time and be like, you gonna have to talk to my assistant, right? Right. Don't call me. Call Keisha. Keisha gonna tell you if I can talk to you or not, because my mom calls me too much. But that's another story. But yeah, so man, thank you so much for coming on. Any last words of encouragement that you can give to inspiring actors, inspiring creatives?
Yes. Trust that you are enough. And I know it sounds cliche, but the higher I go in my own career, but the more I'm seeing my clients also go higher, it really comes down to being comfortable in who you are. Mm-hmm. It's not about being professional. It's about showing the world who you are and being okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's what I just want to encourage people, is embrace who you are, your flaws, your strengths, things that make people love you, be around you, and things that make people hate you.
Right. Embrace
all of those things and market that. That's how you fit into the industry. You're marketing who you are.
That's what Kanye West did.
No, he did to the extreme. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's what he did. All right, man. Thank you for coming and being in your bag, man. Listen, y'all, this is definitely a guy who was in his bag, not just financially, but in a multitude of ways, physically, spiritually, just anything that you can think of. This is just a guy who was literally just in his bag, man. I want to say thank you for coming on. I'm gonna make sure that I drop all your links and stuff like that, and so that people can get your acting coach, your coaching services, man, and then they can support you and follow what it is that you're doing, because you have recurring roles on TV right now, and I'm excited to kind of see where this goes next. The next premiere that you have, man, I'm excited to be there. I love seeing it. I love being in the atmosphere. I love connecting with people who are living their purpose and walking in their gift, man. And you are absolutely walking in your gift and your purpose, and it shows and it radiates off of you every day, man. Thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate you. This has been one of my favorite episodes, y'all. Wow. Until next time, this is In My Bag with Backpack Jeff.